Your grandmother was a smuggler. She just didn't know that's what they'd call it. The chile she hid under her clothes at customs is now $14.99 at Whole Foods. The herb she grew on her fire escape is now on a tasting menu for $28 a plate. The chocolate she wrapped in newspaper and prayed nobody would find is now sold as artisanal and single origin by a company in Brooklyn that has never been to her kitchen. Number 1. Chiles secos. Dried chiles were the first thing and the most important thing. Ancho, guajillo, mulato, pasilla, chile de árbol, the specific combination that made your family's salsa taste the way it tasted, and nothing else in the world tastes like that. You could not find them in the United States in the 1980s and 1990s. Not the right ones, not the real ones. So she packed them. Every trip back from Mexico, every relative who came to visit the dried chiles came first, before the clothes, before anything else. Today, a small bag of dried ancho chiles at Whole Foods costs $8.99. She used to buy a kilo at the Mercado for less than $1. The chiles are identical. The story attached to them is not. Number 2. Epazote. If you grew up eating authentic black beans, you know the smell of epazote. There is nothing else like it. Slightly medicinal, slightly wild, completely irreplaceable. She kept a dried bundle of it in a paper bag folded 3 times. She kept it in her purse because it was small enough that nobody would notice and important enough that she could not leave it behind. You cannot substitute epazote. You cannot approximate it. Every food blog that says otherwise is wrong, and every Mexican grandmother knows it. Today, epazote appears in high-end Mexican restaurants in New York and Los Angeles, where it is described on the menu as a traditional Mexican herb with complex aromatic notes. The price per portion is approximately $12. She grew it in a pot on the fire escape because she could not afford $12 for a garnish. Number 3. Hoja Santa. Large, dark green, anise-scented leaves that wrap tamales and flavor mole and give certain soups a depth that cannot be achieved any other way. She folded them carefully between layers of clothing so they would not bruise. They are fragile when fresh, and the dried version is not the same. She knew this, and she packed them anyway, fresh, every single time, accepting that some of them would not survive the journey because the ones that did were worth it. Today, Hoja Santa appears on tasting menus at restaurants where the chef has spent time in Oaxaca and come back with a revelation. The revelation costs $28 per course. She knew about Hoja Santa in 1974. Number 4. Hierba Santa seeds. Different from the leaves. Smaller, more concentrated, the specific ingredient in certain regional moles that you cannot find explained in any mainstream cookbook because the mainstream never bothered to look. She kept them in a small cloth pouch that she wore around her neck on the flight because she did not trust checked luggage with something this important. A specialty spice company in Brooklyn now sells them online for $11 for a half-ounce jar. The jar has a hand-drawn illustration of the plant and a paragraph about its indigenous origins. She would read that paragraph and have very specific feelings about it. Number 5. Piloncillo. Unrefined cane sugar pressed into hard, dark cones. The specific sweetness of atole and champorado and café de olla and 100 other things that taste completely different when you use white sugar instead. It is not a substitute. It is a different ingredient. She packed 6 cones wrapped in newspaper because 6 cones lasted 3 months if you were careful, and she was always careful. Piloncillo is now available at Trader Joe's. It is marketed as a natural, unrefined sweetener with a rich molasses flavor. The packaging is very attractive. It costs $4.99 for 2 cones. She paid 12 pesos for a full kilo. Number 6. Chiles chipotles on adobo homemade. Not the canned version. The real version, made at home. Dried jalapenos smoked over wood and preserved in a sauce her mother had been making the same way since before she was born. She sealed the jar herself, wrapped it in 3 layers of plastic, packed it in the center of her suitcase, surrounded by soft clothing on all sides. The jar traveled from Oaxaca to Los Angeles in 1989. It survived. Today, chipotle is the single most recognizable Mexican ingredient in American food culture. There is a restaurant chain named after it that makes approximately $9 billion a year. The founder has never met your grandmother. Your grandmother's version was better. Number 7. Canela Real Mexican Cinnamon. Ceylon cinnamon, soft and fragrant, completely different from the hard cassia cinnamon sold in American supermarkets under the same name. She knew the difference. Every Mexican cook knows the difference. She brought it in small bundles because the American version produced a different flavor, and she was not willing to accept a different flavor in her kitchen. A specialty food store in San Francisco now sells Mexican canela as a premium spice, hand-selected, single origin, ethically sourced. It costs $9 for a small bag. She paid nothing for it at the market in her hometown because her neighbor grew it and gave it to her every year as a matter of course. Number 8. Peppertass, raw, hulled from the right variety of squash, not the pumpkin seeds sold in American health food stores. The specific variety thinner, more tender, with a particular nutty flavor that is essential to certain moles and salsas, and cannot be replicated by anything else in the international seed aisle. She vacuum-sealed them in a freezer bag before the trip. She brought enough for 6 months. Raw hulled pepitas are now a superfood. They appear in smoothie bowls and protein bars and grain salads at restaurants where the average check is $60 per person. Your grandmother used them in Mole Negro. She was ahead of the curve by approximately 40 years. Number 9. Nopales Fresh Paddles. She knew they would not survive in luggage, so she did something more practical. She brought the plant. A small cutting, wrapped in wet newspaper, tucked into a plastic bag, carried in her carry-on where it would not get too cold. She planted it in a pot on the balcony when she arrived. It grew. She never had to buy nopales again. The cutting eventually produced a plant that produced cuttings that produced plants in the apartments of 3 of her neighbors. Today, a single nopal paddle at a health food store costs $2.50 and is marketed for its prebiotic fiber content and blood sugar regulating properties. Her plant gave them away for free, and she never once used the word prebiotic. Number 10. Chiles habaneros, heat that has a specific fruity quality underneath it that no other chile produces. She needed them for her agua de habanero and for the specific salsa her family had been making in Yucatan for generations. She packed them in a sealed container marked clearly in English as bell peppers, because the shape is similar enough and the customs agent in 1992 did not look closely enough. Today, habanero hot sauce is a billion-dollar category in American food retail. Kraft habanero sauces sell for $12 to $18 a bottle at farmers markets, where the founder gives a speech about discovering the habanero while traveling in Mexico. Your family did not discover the habanero. Your family is the habanero. Number 11. Masa Harina, the right brand. Not masaca sold in the international aisle. The specific regional brand her mother had used her entire life. Made from a particular type of corn, processed a particular way, that produced a tortilla with a flavor and texture that the widely available version simply does not match. She packed 3 kilos in her checked bag wrapped in plastic. The weight almost exceeded the limit. She paid the extra fee. It was worth it. Artisanal masa harina made from heirloom corn varieties is now sold at specialty food stores for $14 per kilo. Food writers describe it as a revelation. She would describe the widely available alternative as unacceptable. Number 12. Chocolate de Mesa Oaxacan Tablet Chocolate. Rough ground chocolate, mixed with sugar, cinnamon, and almonds, formed into thick tablets designed to be dissolved in hot water or milk for the specific chocolate drink that is nothing like hot cocoa and should not be compared to it. She wrapped each tablet individually in foil, and then in paper, and then in a cloth, and packed them in her carry-on because she did not trust the temperature of the cargo hold with something this important. Oaxacan chocolate is now a destination ingredient. Food tourists travel specifically to Oaxaca to buy it. It is exported to gourmet shops in New York and London, where it sells for $18 per tablet. She paid 25 pesos per tablet at the market in Etla, where the woman who made it had been making it the same way for 30 years. Number 13. Chepiche. a herb from Oaxaca used in black bean soup and in certain stews that gives a flavor so specific and so regional that no food database in English had a reliable description of it until approximately 2018. She kept it dried in a sealed bag inside another sealed bag inside a small cloth pouch she kept in her purse on every flight because this specific herb existed nowhere in the United States, and she was not going to cook her black beans without it. Today, cepiche appears on the menus of Oaxacan restaurants in Los Angeles that have received national press coverage. It is described as a wild foraged herb with ancient indigenous uses. She foraged it herself in her garden in 1986.